All right, let's talk about something we all think about as we get older, losing muscle. You know, that feeling of not being as strong as you used to be. But what if the reason for it, and the solution, isn't what we've always been told? Today, we're digging into a fascinating argument from a source that says it's not about how much protein you cram in, but how well your body can actually use it. This could change everything.
So to kick things off, let's just start with one single, kind of scary number from the source we're looking at. 30%. By the time the average person hits their 60s, they've lost about 30% of their muscle mass. Just let that sink in. That's a huge deal. And it's not just about looking fit, it affects our strength, our balance, pretty much our ability to live independently.
So the big question is why, and more importantly, can we do anything about it? Well, the source we're diving into today says yes, but not in the way you think. It argues that the old advice, just eat more chicken, chug more protein shakes, is completely missing the point. So let's follow this rabbit hole and see where this idea really goes.
Okay, so our first section here is all about the problem itself. Before we can even talk about a solution, we really need to grasp what we're up against, at least according to this source.
You see, the source is really clear on this. This is not just about looking good at the beach. It's way deeper than that. The argument is that since protein builds literally everything in your body, we're talking your bones, your skin, even your immune cells, when you can't use it properly, the whole system starts to go downhill. It's like a domino effect of aging that impacts, well, everything.
And that brings us to what the source calls the big misconception about protein. I guarantee you've heard this a million times. It's the go-to advice. And it's exactly what this source wants to challenge. And here it is, the advice we all know. Feeling a bit weaker? Noticing things aren't as toned as they used to be? The solution is simple, right? Just eat more protein. Get a steak. Buy a huge tub of protein powder. But this is exactly the idea that our source is about to turn on its head.
But here's where things get really interesting. The source poses a radical question. What if the amount of protein you eat isn't the most important part? What if what really matters is how efficiently your body can actually use that protein? This is a total game changer, because it suggests that most of the protein we're eating might not be building muscle at all.
And they even have a name for this phenomenon, the dietary protein trap. The idea is that our bodies are kind of stuck in an old survival mode, right? Back when food was hard to come by. So if our body gets protein it can't immediately use to build stuff, it doesn't save it for later. Nope, it just converts it into sugar for a quick energy boost. And the rest? Well, it becomes waste. So that huge steak you ate could actually be feeding your body sugar, not muscle. So that leads to the obvious next question, right? How in the world do we know if our protein is being used or wasted? Well, according to the source, there's actually a way to measure this. It all comes down to this key idea, protein utilization. Basically, it's a percentage. It measures how much of the protein from a food source actually gets used to build new cells and tissues versus how much gets turned into sugar. And the way they figure this out is pretty clever. They measure nitrogen waste. See, amino acids have nitrogen. If it ends up as waste, that's proof it was never used to build anything. So less waste means higher utilization. Simple as that.
Okay, and this is where it gets wild. Just look at this table from the source. These numbers are pretty eye-opening. A whole egg, which is often considered a perfect protein, is apparently only 47% utilized. That means even with one of the best foods, over half of it is becoming sugar and waste. Then look at meat, poultry, and fish, only 32%. And get this, those whey and soy protein powders that cost a fortune, a measly 17%. That's just, wow.
Putting it on a bar chart makes it even more obvious, doesn't it? Look at that tiny little bar for protein powder. According to these numbers, when you drink that shake, 83% of it isn't building muscle. It's just getting converted. For meat, it's almost 70% waste. The source's whole argument is that this, right here, this inefficiency, is the real culprit behind age-related muscle loss, not a lack of protein in our diets.
All right, so if all our typical protein sources are so, well, inefficient, then what are we supposed to do? This is where the source pivots to its proposed solution, and it's not about finding a new magic food. It's about going deeper, to the building blocks themselves.
And it all comes down to this number, 8. There are 8 essential amino acids that our bodies absolutely cannot make themselves. We have to get them from food. But here's the kicker. According to the source, it's not enough to just get all 8. They have to be in the perfect ratio to each other. And to explain why that balance is so important, the source gives us this fantastic analogy. Think of your body as a bicycle factory. To build one bike, you need one frame, one seat, and one pair of tires, right? Now, what if you have 100 frames and 100 seats, but only one pair of tires? Well, you can only build one bicycle. All those extra frames and seats, they're just useless parts now, and in your body, they become waste. That's exactly what happens with amino acids.
So this leads to the big what if. What if you could sidestep the whole messy, inefficient process of digesting food? What if you could just give your body's bicycle factory the exact parts it needs, all 8 essential amino acids in the perfect ratio, ready to go?
Well, the number the source claims is possible is just staggering. 99%, a 99% protein utilization rate. The argument is that if you get the ratio just right, the body wastes practically nothing. Only 1% becomes waste. I mean, compare that to 17% for protein powder or 32% for meat. We're talking about a completely different level of efficiency here.
Okay, so if you could actually achieve that kind of near-perfect protein use, what would happen? Well, according to the source, it's not just about your muscles, not by a long shot. The claim is that it sets off this amazing cascade of benefits all through your body.
And it makes sense when you think about it, right? We're talking about better building blocks for everything. So the source connects us to younger-looking skin because you're making collagen more efficiently, stronger bones, better endurance, even things like better mood and concentration because neurotransmitters are made from proteins. Your immune system, your gut health, it's all part of the same system. It's basically framed as a full-body tune-up.
So, we've gone through this whole argument. We've talked about the problem, the protein trap, and the proposed solution. What's the one big idea you should really take away from all of this? It really boils down to this. The entire argument is about shifting our perspective. We need to stop obsessing over the quantity of protein, how many grams are on the label, and start focusing on the efficiency of that protein. It's not about eating more, it's about our body being able to use more of what we eat. It's a work smarter, not harder approach to nutrition.
And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Maybe we should start thinking about our food differently. Not just in terms of what's on our plate, but in terms of what our body can actually build with it. It's a fundamental shift in how we look at nutrition, and it's definitely something we're thinking about.